You're listening to Sunglasses, a podcast where we get to see life through God's lenses as His children. I'm your host, Samuel, and together, we'll uncover how God's presence shines through life's tiniest details. So, let's take off the shades, put on our sunglasses, and see what our Father is revealing in today's episode.
Sunglasses family, what's up? Whether you have been playing with us for a while or you just stumbled in here for the first time, you're right where you need to be, exactly where God will have you be, listening to what He would have you listen to at the very moment you are listening to it right now. So get comfortable, grab your sunglasses, and let's roll. And real quick, have you followed the podcast yet? No pressure. There's pressure. In all honesty, there's pressure. You can't just be here, listening. You have to make it official. You have to join this family. So while you're at it, I just need you to click the follow button, subscribe, and send it to somebody as well so they can subscribe to and listen and hear the beautiful things you have been hearing. So today we're about to talk about something big. You will determine if it's big by the time we're done anyways. There's something dangerous that happens when ego replaces teamwork, when proving a point overshadows solving the problem. And trust me, I've seen this play out live in an hospital. 1 second, everything seemed fine. The next, a life was hanging in the balance. And all because unity took a backseat. So come with me, let's step inside and see how this played out. Hospitals are like a well-oiled machine, or at least they should be. There are so many moving parts. There are the doctors, those ones, the nurses, the radiographers, the physiotherapists, the pharmacists, the medical lab scientists, the porters, the biomedical engineers, the HR personnel, the kitchen staff, the front desk staff, the security at the gate. There's so many people that work in an hospital. The nursing assistants, and so on and so forth. And so while each role is different, they all exist for one reason. Everybody that ever works in an hospital is there for one reason: the patient. And so you see, communication is very important, because just as there's a lot of moving parts, it means there has to be a lot of communication and understanding between everybody. And some people use intercoms to relay information quickly, and even with the best systems in place, things can still go sideways. On one particular day, I saw how a lack of unity could have turned tragic. Maybe not even just lack of unity, just lack of understanding, lack of proper communication. And so we started with a call to the X-ray department from one of the wards in an hospital where I work. They had a patient who needed an abdominal X-ray. And for those who don't know, abdominal X-ray typically involves two views. I'm just teaching you a little bit of radiography here. You thank me later. An erect view, that means the person has to be standing preferably, and a supine view, that means the person would be laying down, facing up. The erect view is critical because it reveals air fluid levels, and it actually has to be done first before the patient lies down for the supine view. So when the nurses brought down their patient from the ward, they told us that this patient can't stand. So we asked them, do you mean she physically cannot stand, or you don't want her to stand? Because there's a difference. Now, waiting on I think. So they insisted that she could not stand because she almost fell earlier when they took her to the toilet and so on and so forth. But we had seen this patient walk down the stairs and on the ground floor basically. So we thought that maybe she should still be able to, try to stand. She was just going to rest her back against the erect bucky inside the X-ray room. And so while we were going back and forth with the nurses, they were trying to explain why they think she should not stand. And we radiographers were like, if she cannot stand, we cannot do this examination because she has to stand. Main thing inside this examination is that she must stand. And so while we're doing all those back and forth, the patient says, it's fine, let me just stand so we can do it fast and move on. At that moment, maybe all of us should have just paused and say, hey, are you sure? So the nurses are like, okay, since she said she'll stand, let her stand. And we're like, thank God we got what we wanted. And so she stood. We positioned her for the erect view. She was resting on the erect bucky as planned. Just as they were about to leave her, final checks, say, oh, Potter, you can step up now, nurses, please come inside, and everything. That's how the patient was falling down headlong. Just think about the disaster that could have happened in the moment. But thank God, the nurses were still standing inside. When it was happening, the porter was able to grab her and down the wheelchair back. They got the doctors to give her IV fluids. The nurses checked her vitals, and in that moment, all that was just coming to my mind was we got so caught up in proving a point about our protocol that we almost cost someone their life. And in the end, we found a solution. We kept her in a seated position, which also still means erect. It's just a modified view. We used a mobile X-ray machine and got the images we needed without risking her falling down this time. And that day I left there with one major thought. Once again, we were so focused on who was right that we almost got it wrong. And honestly, it's not just a hospital problem, it's a church problem too. Instead of working together for the sake of the patient, the lost, the hurting, the broken, we get caught up in who is right, who is more important, whose method should take priority. Meanwhile, those are on the line. They say the church is a hospital, not a hospice. A place where the sick come to be healed, not a place where they are left to fade away. How can healing happen when the very people meant to care for the patients are too busy fighting for a position of who is right or who is not? If a real hospital functioned like that, patients wouldn't recover, they would perish. And that's why today we are putting on our sunglasses to look at some major truths about the church as an hospital. Because if we don't understand our roles as staff, we might end up sending away the very people Jesus called us to save. And so the first thing I would like us to know or note or be reminded of is that the patient comes first. In a hospital, no single profession is more important than another. The doctors need the nurses need the radiographers need the porters. It's a system, but do you know who is more important than everyone else? I mentioned it before, in case you forgot. It's the patient. If there are no patients, there's no hospital. If there are no souls to save, what's the church even doing? Luke 5 verse 31 to 32, Jesus speaking said, "It is not the healthy who needs a doctor, but the sick. I have not come to call the righteous, but sinners to repentance." And here's the worst part. While the staff are busy fighting, the patients are dying. And even worse, some patients are not even coming in because word is spreading that this our hospital isn't safe. If the church becomes known for division instead of healing, why would the lost want to walk through the doors? When we put on our sunglasses, we start seeing what really matters. It's not about position, it's about our mission. The patient comes first, the lost, the broken, the hurt. They are why we are here. And that means we have to ask ourselves, are we making it easier or harder for people to encounter Jesus? Do we welcome the patients who walk into church, or do we judge them for being sick? Do we help bandage their wounds, or do we act like we don't see them bleeding? Are we so busy proving the point that we forget the point is saving lives? Romans 15 verse 7 says, "Accept one another, then just as Christ accepted you," in order to bring praise to God. Because at the end of the day, a hospital without patients is a failure, and a church that forgets its mission is just a social club. Let's not lose sight of why we are here. Now we know the patient comes first, but to be fair, if the system isn't working, if the staff isn't taken care of, the whole hospital falls apart. And that brings us to the next thing. Let's talk about paychecks. That's the second thing that we are going to be seeing. Paychecks. Because let's be honest, nobody is doing all this work for free. But in the church, are we really expecting the right kind of payment for our service? In the hospital, no staff member is expected to pay another before they do their job. The doctor doesn't pay the porter before the patient is wielding. The nurses don't tip the lab scientists before they run tests. Everyone does their work because at the end of the month, they know the hospital owner pays them. Colossians 3 verse 23 to 24 says, "Whatever you do, work at it with all your heart as working for the Lord, not for human masters, since you know that you will receive an inheritance from the Lord as a reward." Every role in the hospital requires skill. Every role demands effort, and every role gets paid. But who pays? Not the doctors, not the nurses, not the porters. The hospital owner pays everyone. So who is the hospital owner? God. In this church, as an hospital, God is the owner. So why do we in the church act like people need to pay us with respect or recognition before we serve, or monetary advice? Could it be that our understanding of how God rewards his workers needs to change? Hebrews 11 verse 6 says that without faith it is impossible to please God, because anyone who comes to him must believe that he exists and that he rewards those who earnestly seek him. God is the one who rewards faithfulness. And trust me, when God pays, it's worth more than any human validation, even what they can pay you cash-wise. But here's something to think about. Not everyone gets the same amount, but everyone gets paid according to their skill, training, and responsibility. More importantly, our service is first and foremost unto God. But the evidence of that service is seen in the healing and restoration of the patient. We don't just work for God, we work with him. And guess what? We're not the only ones working. The doctors, the porters, the nurses, the staff, they are all serving God too. In other words, the ushers, the ministers, the singers, and the musicians, and the protocol guys, and the technical guys, and everybody that serves in the church, the Sunday school team, the prayer department, the sanitation team, everybody is working unto God, all serving God too. Whatever you did for one of the list of these brothers and sisters of mine, you did for me. That was Jesus speaking in Matthew 25 verse 40. So if we're all serving God, why fight each other? Why make it harder for another person to do their job? If we truly believe that God is the one who rewards, then we should also believe every act of service, big or small, matters to Him. Because in the end, a well-run hospital isn't measured by how impressive the staff looks, but by how many patients walk out healed. With our sunglasses on, we say it differently. God's payment isn't just about money, it's about purpose, it's about impact, it's about seeing lives changed because of our faithfulness. The surgeon may earn more than the cleaner, but if the cleaner doesn't show up, infections spread and the hospital shuts down. Pharmacists may not be in the surgery room, but without the right medications, even a successful surgery would end in failure. Every role is different, but every role is necessary. And when one role is missing, others have to overwork to fill the gap. If the porter doesn't show up, the nurse spends time wheeling patients instead of giving medical care. If the admin team fails, nobody gets paid, and eventually even the best doctors will leave the hospital. 1 Corinthians 12 verse 21, the eye cannot say to the hand, I don't need you, and the head cannot say to the feet, I don't need you. Just imagine what that would be like. The hospital will collapse if every staff member was focused on themselves, and the church will struggle if we see our service as a transaction instead of a calling. So here's the question, are you serving to be seen, or are you serving to make a difference? Because when we stop looking to people for payment, we serve with joy and not entitlement. Alright, so we know that payment comes from the owner, not the staff. But what happens when policies, procedures, or traditions start getting in the way of actually helping people? That's where adaptability comes in. That's the third thing that we want to see with our sunglasses on. Because sometimes sticking too rigidly to the protocol can do more harm than good. Just imagine if the patient that we referenced earlier in the story actually fell and passed on from there. Or after the patient almost fell, we had refused to adjust. Imagine if we said, nope, she must stand because that's protocol. And we forgot that even in radiography, there are basic views and there are modified views for every kind of examination. We would have lost her. But because we were willing to modify the approach, well, we eventually had to modify the approach while keeping the goal in mind that we have to get the best possible image. She survived. 1 Corinthians 9 verse 22 says, I have become all things to all people so that by all means possible I might save some. And because the patient is the most important person in the hospital, protocols exist to serve them, not the other way around. They are not there to serve the protocols. In the same way, church traditions, ministry styles, and even personal preferences must always bow to what benefits the people God is trying to reach. The moment we value how we have always done things over the souls we are called to serve, I'm sorry, but we just may have lost the plot. And so with our sunglasses on, we realize that flexibility isn't compromise, it's wisdom. Holding on to the way things have always been done at the expense of souls isn't faithfulness, it's stubbornness. Think about it. Jesus never changed his message, but he adapted his approach to reach different people. He preached in synagogues, but he also sat at dinner tables, doing one thing, preaching the gospel. He taught in the temple, but he also spoke from a boat. He met Nicodemus privately at night, but he also called Zacchaeus out publicly in the daytime. Same results, different approaches. And yet somehow, we have convinced ourselves that if the method changes, the message is lost. But Jesus himself showed us that the real danger is when we cling to structure so tightly that we let people slip through the cracks. In Mark 2 verse 22, Jesus speaking again said, no one pours new wine into old wineskins, otherwise the wine will burst the skins, and both the wine and the new wineskins will be ruined. No, they pour new wine into new wineskins. The gospel is the wine, the method is just the wineskin. And if we refuse to adapt when necessary, we risk losing both. So here's the question, are we holding on to traditions that no longer serve the mission? Are we willing to adjust where needed so that lives can be saved? Because when we stop serving the system and start serving the souls, that's when the hospital, the church, begins to thrive. So I've talked about the importance of putting the patient first, knowing who pays us, and being adaptable. But here's the twist. What if the staff members themselves need healing? Because the truth is, just because you are wearing scrubs doesn't mean you will never find yourself back in an hospital bed, or at least needing a fellow medical person's help. For yourself or for somebody else. In the place where I work, every staff member has an automatic HMO coverage, meaning if they ever need medical attention, they can receive it right there in the same hospital where they work. But imagine this, what if a staff member becomes a patient and the person responsible for their care is someone they have had a serious disagreement with? That's why the Bible says that, brothers and sisters, if someone is caught in a sin, you will live by the Spirit to restore that person gently. But watch yourselves, or you may also be tempted. Carry each other's burdens. Emphasis on this fact. And in this way, you fulfill the law of Christ. That's Galatians 6 verse 1 to 2, by the way. The truth is, every single one of us was once a patient. We were once lost, broken, and in need of healing. And even our staff, life happens. We still experience pain, we still have struggles, we still need restoration. So what happens when a fellow staff member needs care? but their healer holds a grudge. With your sunglasses on and my sunglasses, we realize something crucial. Just because we are staff now doesn't mean we will never need healing again. We all still have moments of weakness. We all still need grace. Think about it. What if the person God assigned to help restore you is someone you refused to help when they needed you? What if the very person you look down on is the one holding the treatment for your next season? In the hospital, no staff member can say, I will never need medical attention. And in the church, no believer can say, I will never need grace, mercy, or restoration. Blessed are the merciful, for they will be shown mercy. This was Jesus speaking in Matthew 5:7 during the Sermon on the Mount. If you don't need mercy, Jesus will not say that you will receive mercy because you have given mercy. The grace we give today might be the grace we need tomorrow. And when we refuse to walk in love, we create a system where restoration is blocked, not just for others, but for ourselves too. Because judgment without mercy will be shown to anyone who has not been merciful. Mercy always triumphs over judgment. That's James 2:13. So here's the question. If you were the one on the hospital bed tomorrow, how would you want to be treated? When we see through God's lenses, we stop seeing people as rivals and start seeing them as fellow workers who are still growing just like us. Because in the end, we are not just called to heal others. We must also create an environment where we can be healed too. And so if you are listening right now, I have good news for you. At no point was I referring to you as the patient. Yourself was crops. You were in this staff meeting with me. Because the real question then, and the one I'm throwing at you, is are we working together to save lives? Are we too busy proving a point while souls are slipping away? Because like the topic says, while staffs are vying, patients are dying. But when we work together in unity, the hospital thrives, the church thrives, and most importantly, souls are saved. But what about when people walk in? What do they see? Do they find the hospital or a battlefield? Are we healers or we are standing in the way of their recovery? Jesus said, by this, everyone will know that you are my disciples if you love one another. At the end of the day, it's not about who is right, who is more important, or who gets the credit. It's about the patient, the lost, the broken, the ones who need healing. And when they walk through our doors, they are not looking for a debate. They are looking for Jesus. So let's put aside the power struggles. Let's remember who we are serving and why we are here. Because when people step into this hospital, they shouldn't live in worse conditions than they came. They should live healed, restored, and transformed. And one more thing, just in case you ever find yourself back in the hospital bed needing grace, needing restoration, make sure you have built a culture where healing is still possible. And so until next time, keep your sunglasses on. Ciao.
Thank you for tuning in to Sunglasses. If this episode blessed you, please share it with a friend, leave a review, and don't forget to subscribe so you never miss a moment and other people can discover this too. Follow the podcast on Instagram at SunglassesBar to stay connected and explore how we can keep spotting God in life's tiniest details. Until next time, keep your sunglasses on, and remember, when you see through God's lenses, everything starts to make sense. See you soon.